the root of the problem is that we are questioning our identity and God's authority. And that informs so much about our life. When we live in pride, we live in comparison, we live in insecurity, we live in entitlement. Because outside, the church world, pride is a positive. You should be proud of yourself. You should be confident in those things. And then in the upside down world of the Christian faith, it is just, it's a little bit different than that. It's you should be as Jesus did and who, humbled himself to the point of death on the cross.
Welcome to the Hope in Real Life podcast with Jason Gore. Our team is passionate and committed to bringing you more hope in the everyday, real areas of your life. If this conversation and content is valuable for you, please do us a favor. Like, subscribe, and even share. You never know how valuable it could be to share a little bit of hope with someone else. Let's get the conversation started. What's going on, Hope in Real Life family? So glad to be here with you on this episode where we are talking about pride. Now, look, before you turn this off, let me say this really quickly. If you think I don't need to hear a conversation about pride, you might want to stick around just a little bit longer, good. Okay? I'm here with my good friend, Matt Curtis, co-host, Bradford Mitchell. I paused because I said in our last two episodes that we filmed that we had David Goggins here to talk about self-control.
You're trying to think of somebody else.
Dr. Phil here to talk about love. I don't really know who the person is. I can't say Jesus. I can't say it. Can't say it. Big topic of conversation, man. It pervasive in our culture, whether we know it or not. Mm-hmm. Bradford.
Yeah.
What do you got for us?
Pride's an interesting thing. It's one of those things that, like, we probably would look at somebody else pretty easily and be like, they're a little prideful.
Yeah.
But it's at times that we don't, at least I'll say it, maybe don't leave me hanging out on the ledge, boys. But I think it's hard for me to recognize when I'm being prideful.
Yeah.
And about the one person that
we actually brought your wife into the studio.
I was literally about to say the one person that won't make me fume with anger if something is said about how I'm reacting is actually my wife. If you want to know more about that, you should check out the episode we did on love.
Okay. All right.
But okay, so we got to start at the basis. What would pride be? What do we identify that as? And I think everybody kind of knows, but let's just start that as a baseline before we get going.
Yeah. Matt, you want to take a swing first, or you want me to jump out of the gate?
Oh, sure. Let's let it rip.
New guy. Let's go.
I am a new guy. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here. Matt
Curtis, good friend of mine, campus pastor at our Fuquay campus of our church. And actually, not to make you prideful about this, but in my mind, you carry yourself as one of the more humble guys.
I thought I was a subject matter expert on pride.
Yeah.
That's what I came here
in humility.
So why don't you go and unveil
Matt
pride?
Curtis's,
what do we got?
Matt Curtis's new book, Humility, and How I Achieved It.
If I could come in and do this, and she, time and date, and I said, sure. My schedule says yes, my insecurity says no, and I said, what are we talking about? And she said, well, pride and insecurity. Like, oh, all right, here we are. No, I think pride it's a wicked thing, and it is. It's everybody has some element of pride. I think whenever, you can see back into the garden, that's where pride happens. I think anytime we act in pride, the root of the problem is that we are questioning our identity and God's authority. And that informs so much about our life. When we live in pride, we live in comparison, we live in insecurity, we live in entitlement. Because outside, the church world, pride is a positive. You should be proud of yourself. You should be confident in those things. And then in the upside down world of the Christian faith, it is just, it's a little bit different than that. It's you should be as Jesus did and who, humbled himself to the point of death on the cross.
Yeah. And just for our listeners that might not spend a whole lot of time reading the Bible, what Matt said was you see it in the garden. So in the Bible, like in the very beginning, when God creates the heavens and the earth, he puts Adam and Eve, his first two created beings, in a garden and says, hey, you can eat from any tree, anything in the garden that you want, except for this one thing, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And then the serpent shows up, the bad guy, and basically says, listen, no. You're not going to die if you eat from this. God just knows if you eat from it, you're going to be like him. And so then they start to believe this lie that maybe they know better than God.
Right.
And if you ever get to a place where you think maybe you know better than God,
Check
that's
yourself.
probably the time to think maybe
Before
I'm
you wreck
struggling with
yourself.
pride. Yeah. For me, I think pride is just this, the ugly rearing of its head of a conflated or overinflated view of self.
Yeah.
And we look at,
Dang, that's good.
well, when you live enough years, and by God's grace, hopefully I'll have many more, but you see it and you experience it and you look in the mirror long enough and you're like, oh, I know what your problem is. But, because you even said the word confidence. I mean, the truth is we do need confidence. I mean, even as a coach for other people, you want people to have confidence, but it's having confidence in the right things,
Right.
in the right places, in the right spaces. And I would even say, having confidence in your ability to listen and hear feedback from other people and
Yep.
be able to run it through a good filter is important. But yeah, when we have this overinflated, this conflated view of self, that's when things start breaking down. That's when we start getting into places of, well, I think I'm pretty good at this. I deserve, and this person should, and this
Right.
person should meet my needs. And man, you see things go south pretty quickly.
Yeah. I think there's a couple different definitions of pride. And I particularly want to ask you, Jason, because both of you are parents, your dads, so there's that aspect of this. But there's like pride as a heart posture, like we're talking about like how maybe the world views it. Like I'm amazing, I'm awesome, I know my stuff. That's kind of what we're getting at. We'll get there. But what would you say, like how is it different when we tell the kids we coach? Like let's talk about that real quick. Like how is that okay? What's the difference in like saying you have pride for your children or the kids on your team?
Yeah.
Like, cause that's a different thing. That's a completely different thing. So what would you say, like as a coach, how do you kind of like draw that line or balance that?
I think you separate them out in terms of if pride and confidence are different in that you do have confidence in your abilities. You do have confidence that I would say, like as followers of Christ, I'd say our confidence should be in what God can do through us.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But the longer you follow Christ, you realize, hey, that actually means I'm not all that great. The Bible tells us is when we're at our weakest that God steps in and brings his strength and we're the strongest. And so, but with an athlete or when we're doing anything at work, whether it's working on a presentation, going in front of our boss, you do need to know, like, hey, I'm here because I have something to say. God
Right.
did not create me void of any gifting, purpose, responsibility to fulfill. Like he created me for a reason. And so realizing, no, I am here for a purpose. I can have confidence in that purpose. I can have confidence in my giftings. My dad used to say a dog that won't wag his own tail ain't worth having. And to some degree, you need to know, like, you do have some purpose. But I would say the line gets drawn when it starts negatively impacting other people around you or forces you to take a negative view of other people. And so
There it is.
when you start to believe yourself so great that you don't have to listen to, take feedback from, recognize your interdependence on the other people around you, I think that's when like, wait a minute, okay, maybe pride is starting to sneak into that confidence has moved to a prideful place that's going to lead to some negative results.
Yeah. So being proud of someone is more about confidence and encouragement versus when you act proud yourself, and then you start causing damage and
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So what would y'all say is, like, why is it harmful? Like let's like unpack that part. Like what can end up happening if we go down there? Because I know for me, I'm a visual learner. Yep. So explaining to me, don't press the red button and just, that's all you say. I'm like, yeah, but now I need to know what happens.
Right.
So what would we kind of say is the reasons why? I think it's maybe obvious, but again, I think it's important to really like lay it out so we know what's happening.
I'll go and then I'll let Matt. I mean, at the end of the day, I would say what pride does is it destroys lives. Mm-hmm. I mean, period. Now because we've jumped to the end of the conversation. Let's
That's
put,
true.
So
That's
go
true.
ahead. Push the button. What happens?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it destroys lives because we get to this place where we start to really believe our ways are always the best. That we're more important than other people. Other people need to bow down to us. Our personal preferences are more important. That takes away our ability to go through life with this we over me attitude, which is necessary. for any. When I say we over me, I mean like the collective we is more important than my own personal preferences. But man, if you write and read your own press clippings long enough, that can take you to a place to where you're standing there by yourself,
Right.
and